Hello, yeah, everybody. This is Bobby Buck, and it's Bobby Buck here with what's your story? Because everybody seems to have a story nowadays, and I believe that we're going to get a real interesting story right here. So, first of all, I want you to please state your name, sir.
I'm Anthony Tierno, and I wrote Maldene.
So, Mr. Tierno, let everybody know exactly what it is that you do and who you are.
Well, I come originally from a science background. I have a master's in physics and a second BS in math. But I'm not just strictly left brain, because I've also written a series that combines fantasy and science fiction that's over 13 books. I spent about 8 years writing that. During that time, I was also taking care of my parents. My dad had Parkinson's, and well, that's another big story in itself.
Man, but you mentioned 13 books.
13 books, 5.2 million words.
Ooh. So 13 different books, or just
all in the same series. I do have other books that are written with other series, but Maldene is a 13-book epic that pretty much gives a new meaning to the word epic.
Yeah, I believe so, because I hear people use the word epic, but when you use it, I really believe it. Yeah. Okay, well, tell us just a little bit more about your novel, Maldene.
Well, Maldene is the name of a world that's located billions and billions of light years away from Earth. Unlike most fiction, it has nothing to do with Earth. You won't find a lost colony, you won't find somebody's spaceship crashed or anything else. It's completely unrelated. And it's a world, it starts off first looking like your typical epic fantasy with wizards and bad guys and swords and stuff. But after a while in this series, I also sneak in some science fiction elements. And you don't see that too often, because most people really can't blend them. They either have the guy with the wand versus the guy with the blaster or something. But I get a bit more creative on that. And the story centers around the secrets of Maldene, and initially a group of characters that are just starting to find out what's going on in the world, particularly with regards the most villainous character you'll ever seen, a guy by the name of Myro.
Myro.
He's my ultimate villain. He's been around for as long as people can tell throughout all of history. He obviously has enough power to conquer the world, and obviously wants to, but he hasn't. So there's something else going on. Maybe he's fighting forces that no one knows about, but there are mysteries in there, and these characters, headed by the wizard Sabu, an elf named Elgar, and a psychic named Sindar, them and their friends are on a journey to find out what exactly is going on. And part of that journey brings them across the only figure that actually is willing to stand up to the evil of Myro, and that's the mysterious king.
So, with all of these characters, I'm wondering, is there like anybody that's a co-author with you, or did you come up with all these yourself?
All mine. The series has about 250 characters in total.
Okay, because y'all didn't hear it, how many total characters? 250
throughout all 13 books.
And you did it all by yourself?
All of them, just me.
Man, that's very amazing. Yeah, I know sometimes people say other people are bipolar, but what would they call you?
I'm something else.
Something else.
I've seen people who go, hey, it took me a whole year to write this one book, or I was puzzling over a paragraph for about a month. And well, the last book on my series, book 13, that's alone is 570,000 words, and I wrote it in 4 months, editing included.
I tell you, man, you're some type of special person. I tell you that. But also, just speaking on that, with what you have done in the past with the books and the writing, it's been heard that you are an amazing person. They say you're insane with your work ethic. And what exactly is your writing schedule when you're writing one of your novels, and how do you keep it so long?
Well, for each given chapter is basically a 3-day cycle. Day 1, I start at about 7:30 in the morning, and I'm writing all the way through like about 4:30 or 5:30 straight. And that'll be usually between 12 and 13,000 words. There's been a couple times when I've actually topped out at past 15,000 words, and that's like Stephen King territory or better. And then after I take a break for the health club, I come back, and while I'm having dinner, I edit what I wrote that day. So I'm finished like around midnight. And then day 2, I start out the same, but I basically finish up the chapters, so that's about half a day. And day 3, I do what I call chapter edit. I re-edit the whole chapter, spell check it, make sure everything's fine, and then I outline what I'm going to do for the next day. And then that starts the next set of 3 days. And at the end of a given section, I go over each of the chapters just to make sure they link the plot one chapter to the next. And then at the end of the book, I give the whole thing a once over too.
Man. So your brain don't really rest at all?
No.
No, it don't really seem like it. So, okay, I know a lot of people want to ask you this themselves and everything. So, what makes Maldene different than any other fantasy book out there? How does it compare to, say, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
It's different on several levels. Like I said, at one point I combined fantasy and science fiction, which again you aren't going to see done all that often because people that try make it look stupid. The world itself is complete. I have an entire world map that you can wrap around a globe, and part of it's here on the inside of the book. I have like background details, like I have an alphabet, I have a language, I have notes on the weather patterns, just all these little background details that fit into it to give the idea that this is a complete world. It's as real as anything that we're currently living in. The characters, I have rather strong characterizations. There are some characters where I don't even need to say who's speaking, and you know who it is. And the plot I love plots and plot twists, and I'll do things like I'll plant a clue in like book 1, and you'll find out like 4 books later what that's there for. And so for like people have compared it to like Lord of the Rings. One guy, for instance, said in scope and length, my first 2-volume novel is about the equivalent of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. And while I do admire J.K. Rowling for the Harry Potter series, I'm probably about the only one that can seriously say, hey, she writes some nice short stories. My books tend to be a little bit long, but I've never had complaints about people going, it's too long once they get into reading it. They just sort of lose track of time.
Okay, I know you told me you had someone doing a little proofreading, like a little barter and trade type thing or something like that?
Yeah, so one guy in Nova Scotia, he found my MySpace page at the time and said, okay, I'll read it. And I said, okay, give me a review afterwards. And he said, it'll have to be, you know, a fair review. He pointed out my typos and things I had at the time. And turns out, and he really loved it, and it turns out that he's a copy editor turned author. So he's seen both sides of the fence on that. And so I asked him after it was finished, hey, you're copy editor, could you proofread, for my little typos? I can't pay you anything, but you get to read it. He's on book 6 right now, and he's turned into a real fanboy. He's like always emailing me. I can hardly wait to see what happens with so-and-so. Don't tell me, I want to find out for myself. And this is a pro, like in his 60s or something, that's seen it all, and sounds like an enthusiastic little kid at times.
Well, I know that ought to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, within all this writing and everything that you do, like with your insane work ethic and everything, have you ever suffered the dreaded writer's block? And if so, how do you cope with it, or how do you avoid it?
I've never suffered it at all, which annoys some people. Part of it is advanced planning. The day before I start in a new chapter, I have outlined in my notes down there what I'm going to put into that chapter. Before I start a book, I break out my database. I set up all the characters that I think I'll need so they're ready, including what they look like, what they act like, everything. I have at least the basic plot line I'll need, the beginning, the middle, the end, whatever character arcs are going on. So I have everything planned out ahead of time. That is not to say that I don't do some things on the fly, because like the second book, I think, no, about book 10, I wrote most of that like entirely off the cuff. But between that and my imagination, I have never got writer's block.
But like I said, you're a very different and very special person, man. I'm glad to even know you. Yeah, because a lot of people suffer with writer's block almost constantly.
I just put on the music. I don't write in silence. That would drive me nuts. I have a bunch of soundtracks and stuff I'll put on, and the minute I hear like one of John Williams' pieces start up or something, I'm lost. It's like I'm in the zone, and that holds me for like about 6 to 8 hours.
Okay, well, go ahead, since you brought that up. Name some of your type of material that you listen to, some of your artists or whatever.
Star Wars would be a prime example. John Williams. Anything from him to Sleepy Hollow. There, pretty much any of the good science fiction and fantasy things. And there have been some bad movies with great soundtracks. And I steer away from anything that has lyrics, because if I'm listening to the words, then I'm listening to the words in the songs instead of the ones in my head, and that sort of distracts me. But anything, you know, grandiose orchestra, something with, you know, just a nice, good, fearsome beat, and keeps me going.
Okay, all right, it's pretty cool right there. Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you this: is there or was there anyone particular who's influential with you or supportive of your writing?
Supportive would have to be my parents. My mom, in particular, when she was around, I'd be writing in my little cramped space next to my bed, and typing along, and then I'd just feel a presence look over my shoulder, and she's there peeking over the edge of the bed, you know, just to get a look. And I'm going, I appreciate it, but I can't write when you're staring at me. And she'd smile and leave. And my dad, at one point, he had pretty advanced Parkinson's, and you know, at one point he had the typical, when you're going to get a job, and then he's finding out his son's writing a book, and he's showing it off to my uncle, and his tone changes to, when you're going to get a publisher, in that exact same tone of voice, and he had no idea how funny I found that.
Right.
So I found out many years later, after he was gone, my mom told me, you know, of course your dad wanted to be a writer at one point. Really? Okay, that explains a few things. But yeah, my mom was very enthusiastic about the writing, and she enjoyed also listening to the soundtracks in the next room. One piece would come to an end, big dramatic thing, and I'm still writing, and I hear like 2 rooms away, yay!
Oh, okay then. So I guess some pretty good support right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Got one more question here. Okay. This is the most important question of them all. Where can our listeners get a copy of your book? Listeners or readers, whichever one. Because you got an audio on your website?
I have a website. It's www.maldene.com. There's an ordering page. There's also links to anything of Maldene, the Facebook page, the fan page, everything else. The ordering page, there's a link to, you can get it off of Amazon or direct from me, currently in both paperback and ebook. The current version is a re-release, because I dropped my old publisher, and I'm sort of doing it on my own under my Vault of Knowledge label. So I have the first book got divided into volume 1 and 2, because I was told, hey, you have a great novel, but no one's going to buy an 800-page paperback from an unknown. So until I'm sufficiently famous, it's going to be in 2 volumes. I have the new volume 1 out right now. I don't have a new cover for volume 2 yet. But so you can see the comparison before and after. This is the new volume 1. This was the old cover. This one, it's okay. This one sort of blows the snot out of it.
Right.
And so the volume 2 cover I don't have a replacement for yet, but you know, I'm going to have the artist that did this one do a proper volume 2. But if you just go to Maldene.com, everything is there. You know, I hook up everything to that site.
Okay, all right then. Well, it's real good, man. Appreciate everything. Appreciate your time, and you know, you took time out your schedule and your insane work ethic to let me come here to give you an interview.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. All right, y'all. There you have it. Mr. Mark here, and he has it going on. So y'all check out his website and get back with him as soon as you can. Alright? Y'all take care. I'm out.